Hello everyone, welcome. My name's Lauren Robertson. I'm just waiting for everybody to enter the room, and usually we have a couple of latecomers. So I'm just going to wax lyrical until they arrive. Give me a little thumbs up if you could hear me, okay? Awesome, perfect, and thank you so much for being here. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce myself and say a little bit about what we're going to do today while I let people into the meeting from the waiting room at the same time. So as I mentioned, my name's Lauren Robertson. I know some of you know me and some of you are meeting me now for the first time. So I am a lifelong medium. My mum is a medium as well. And mediumship has been my profession since I was 16 years old. I came out of school and got a job as a medium right away. It's a funny story. I'll tell you about it another time. Um, but my love and my passion for mediumship has always been there from a young age, and my sensitivity to the moods and the energies and the stories of other people and where they came from and why they think the way they do, that has always been something that's been very much at the forefront of my personality. And I'm sure if you're interested in mediumship, it will be at the forefront of yours as well. So, over a career spanning almost 2 decades, I've completed around 20,000 private sittings and public demonstrations all over the world. And in 2017, I wrote my first book about mediumship, which is called The Medium in Manolos. I know some of you probably have it. Oh, it's in my pile of books, but it's kind of at the bottom here. It's purple. And so, thank you so much to those of you who have read it. I really do love philosophy and the philosophy of mediumship as well. And on the one hand, I'm really passionate about the healing power that mediumship has to restore people after loss, and specifically to restore their ability to love themselves, their life, other people, because there's something about death that can make us withdraw a bit from love, that can make us realize that, if I really love this person, if I really commit to loving this person, guaranteed one of us is going to lose the other. And when we have a first-hand experience of that, it can be really jarring and it can affect us for the rest of our life. So, one of my main missions when it comes to actually demonstrating mediumship and doing one-to-one sittings is to open up the possibility that death isn't goodbye forever. And although the physical body of the person or the animal you loved is no longer physically with us in this present moment, you can't hug them or touch them or hold them or, do things with them to make more memories. I believe sincerely that there is a part of us that can transcend that process that we call death. And that there's a part of us that stays meaningfully connected to our loved ones who are still living after we die, and that by turning our attention to those connections and that those bonds, I guess, that don't get broken by death, we can help restore people by showing them that there's something that's transcended that process, and that can help people grieve from a place of, I miss your body, I miss you physically, but I know you're still with me in other ways that matter. So that's the one side. But on the other side, I'm very passionate about the philosophy of mediumship, and if such a thing as after death communication is possible, then what does that mean about the nature of human consciousness, of human experience, of reality? What does it mean about the ways in which we're connected? What does it mean about the ways we ought to relate to the planet, to each other, to ourselves, to our own bodies? And so some of you will follow my work on the art and science of mediumship, which is where I write about mediumship from a philosophical point of view. And I interview other thinkers, sometimes critics and skeptics, other mediums, other philosophers who are also tangling with this question of consciousness from their own unique point of view. I'm currently working on my second book. It's very early days yet. I'm only in proposal stage, but it's going to be based on my Bigelow essay. Some of you may know, you might have read it, that I was invited to write an essay for the Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies essay contest. And although my essay didn't win a prize, sadly, it did get a lot of interest. A lot of people reached out to me about some of the points that I had made in it. So I'm going to be developing that essay into a book. So it's going to be probably 12 essays, all about really provocative questions surrounding mediumship, how we do science on mediums, why society has such contempt for mediums. So it's going to be talking about all these different angles from quite a juicy point of view. So that's a little bit about me. I think that everybody who is going to be here is now here. So welcome. Thank you if you joined us a little late. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about 3 things that you can do that is going to take your mediumship from good and okay to miraculous. And that's what we want, really, isn't it? You know, whether we are day 1 of our mediumship journey or day like 100,001, which it feels like I am at this point, we're still always going for that. What can make this really special for the sitter? How can I convey the communicator with more fidelity, with more truth, with more accuracy, with more detail, with more feeling? You know, that is always the next level that we're trying to get to. So I hope to introduce you to 3 things today, which are really easy to implement, but which a lot of mediums are not thinking about or are not actually doing, or they don't understand why they should do it, and so they just don't. So before we get on to talking about that, and by the way, afterwards, we're going to take some of these philosophies and then I'm going to put you into groups of 2 and you're going to have the opportunity to practice a reading on each other. And when you're done, we're going to come back to the group here and we're going to discuss how you got on implementing one of the strategies that we're going to talk about today. So before we get on to that, I would love for you to write in a comment, please, where you're at in your mediumship journey. Do you feel that you are a beginner? Are you just starting out? Have you done, say, fewer than 100 sittings? Or would you see yourself as more intermediate? Have you done sittings with like really big tutors? Have you traveled to do this? Have you done platform? Have you been paid for your readings somewhat? Or would you consider yourself a career medium, a professional medium, and very well established? So please go ahead and write in a comment. Feel free to say a few sentences about why you gave yourself that grading. Please go ahead and write in a comment what you would grade yourself as: beginner, intermediate, or established. Heidi, welcome. Heidi says, I'm a beginner. Hi, Karen from Victoria, Canada. Month 4 of mediumship development. Oh, 4 months old. I love 4 months olds. So cute. Well, welcome. Who else? Debbie says, I'm a beginner with only a few months of mediumship. Perfect. Tara says, beginner middle. Welcome, Tara. Been in a few circles over the years and did Arthur Findlay College course. Nice. Michelle says, I have done all of those things, 12 years, tutors, DEMS, readings, but I still feel intermediate. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting, Michelle. I'd love to talk to you about that. And I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Is it Sneza? I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Please let me know
Yeah,
when you
it's
come on the
Sneja.
call.
It's Sneja.
Sneja. Okay, Sneja. Thank you very much for that. M says, I'm intermediate. Sarah says, beginner. Are you really, Sarah? Are you really a beginner? I'm not sure about these assessments here. I'm not sure about this. Sarah says, beginner, 2.5 years into development alongside trans healing development. Helen, welcome. Lovely to see you. Intermediate, just starting to do platform, done some courses, AFC, and with you. Good. Okay, perfect. So one thing to think about just before we proceed with this is, what would it mean to you to be beginner, intermediate, and established? I want you to really think about how you would grade those milestones. And don't make it harder than it needs to be. But what is it that makes you say you're a beginner? And therefore, what would make you feel that you're intermediate? And therefore, what would make you feel that you were advanced? Have a think about, if you were to go and see another medium, what would make you feel that they were really professional, really advanced, really experienced, really settled in their practice, somebody that you could invest your confidence and your trust in? What would make you feel that way about another medium? What would make you feel that your mediumship or another medium's mediumship was intermediate? What do you think some of the um, characteristics would be of an intermediate level medium? And then, what do you think the characteristics of a beginner are? And I think it's really important that you get clear on that for yourself, because the overriding experience that I have with mediums is they're much more proficient than they give themselves credit for, much more talented than they give themselves credit for. And if you really sit and think about all the hours you've spent meditating, working on this, giving readings, giving messages, getting amazing stuff right that you never could possibly have known, the money you've spent on Arthur Findlay College and other courses, you know, are you really a beginner? I mean, if you are, that's great. But my experience is that mediums often grade themselves in a way that protects themselves, grades themselves in a way that doesn't mean that I or anyone else will ask or expect too much of them. Grades themselves in a way that says, I'm only little old me, don't expect too much. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And is that really true, first of all? And second of all, is that the message that you want to be sending to the world? So if you are genuinely a beginner, as in, I've had some crazy experiences, I'm really interested in this, I've done a bit of reading about it, I've been meditating, I've completed probably fewer than 50 or 75 practice sittings, I haven't really had much tutelage on the matter, then you're probably a beginner. But if you're beyond any of that, then you are beyond any of that. And it's time to start taking an honest account of the sort of medium that you really are and that you want to be, and not the sort of medium who's the safest. Because in some ways, mediumship is very safe because it's predicated on love and connection. And in some ways, if you're going to do mediumship right, you have to be very unsafe, because it takes an amazing amount of courage to go for that information that other people will shy away from, that beginners will shy away from. And it takes amazing courage to, get up again and do another reading after a reading that didn't go so well. It takes courage and compassion and energy to talk about situations that are really, really difficult and might be hurtful to a client. Somebody might have passed away through taking their own life, or somebody might have lost a child. These things take unsafety on the part of the medium, they take courage and they take bravery. And part of you ascending in your mediumship journey is owning that courage, that confidence, that progression within yourself. And so, in your mediumship journey, you have a choice. You get to say that you're a beginner and be safe and no one expects anything of you. Or you get to say, I want to be the kind of medium that people should expect something of. And I'm going to name myself as such. And I'm going to do what needs to be done to be as such. And so the choice is yours. Okay, so who else do we have here? Manisha. Sorry, I'm scrolling here and this thing's jumping about all over the place. Oh, Guy. Guy said 5 years. Hi, Guy. Just one circle though, not been for the last 2 years. Beginner, intermediate maybe. From the southeast coast of the UK. Welcome. Tara says accuracy of message. Yes. Manisha says, I would call myself advanced the day I stop having anxiety before a reading. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. Not going to happen. Sorry. But also, free yourself from that expectation, because the day you stop having anxiety before a reading is the day you are way too lax about the whole thing. I mean, always there should be that, slight feeling of, this matters a lot to me, this matters a lot to the other person. I always feel like that anxiety is actually your energy kind of dialing up to the spirit world's energy. It's like they flatten their vibration down to meet us, and we dial our energy up to meet them, and we get someplace in the middle where we can just about understand each other. And so your feelings of anxiety are that. What I would say is, if those butterflies are turned into an unpleasant sensation, Then something you can do more of to help with that is exercise. Exercise is really good for it, honestly. It gets the blood pumping, it gets your energy moving, it sends your thinking to a higher level. Find some sort of exercise that you love to do, that you are really engaged with and passionate about, and that will help with your anxiety. Just a tangent. Guy said, okay, accuracy, some good hits for a good medium, more vague for a beginner. However, when I started, I had a couple of really good readings, but since it hasn't seemed so good. I know that mediumship is only one aspect of what we're capable of. Yes. Helen says, good evidence, professional, compassionate, less nervous. Good. So these are really, really great targets. So think about beginner, intermediate, established, and set yourself a wee goal in each of those categories, something tangible, something that once you pass it, you can say, that's it, I've graduated to intermediate, or I've graduated to advanced. Volume of readings is a really good uh, measurement of that, because just with experience and practice, you're going to get better and better every time, but they need to be in a good time scale. They need to be like quite rapid over like a 6 month period. Being able to get a certain depth of evidence fairly consistently, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row, is another good measurement that would step you up a level. The way other people respond. So, for example, if people start trying to pay you, it means that they have found a value in what you had to say that they don't feel comfortable taking without giving something back. So that's an indication that people, that you've leveled up a bit and you've got something really going there. So think about how you would measure your own ascension from beginner to intermediate to advanced based on what matters to you and what would matter to you if you were getting a sitting, and write them down. And you probably can't see it here in my office, but I've got all kinds of like billboards and sticky notes and whiteboards and stuff. And whenever I'm working towards one of these goals or attainments in my mediumship, I always write it on there so that you can see it every day and you know that that's what you're moving and working towards. Because a lot of mediums are stuck simply because they're not working towards a goal. They're just doing the readings for the reading's sake. They're not like, right, this is what I want. This is what I want to be able to do. And they're not moving towards it. They're just, doing whatever reading's there without thinking about moving forward. Because what I've found with the spirit world is the spirit world want you to be the best medium you can be. It's in their interest. And if you set a goal and in so doing, you create that vacuum in the universe of this empty goal not yet filled, the spirit world know how to move and bend and work with you in such a way to help you fulfill that goal for you and for them as well. All right. So we're going to actually say a quick prayer, and then I'm going to go on to share with you what the 3 things are that you can do. It's none of that we just said. 3 more things you can do to help take your mediumship to the next level. Now, I don't know if you're the praying kind or not. That's totally up to you. You can take this time to take a few moments for yourself quietly, or if you wish, you can follow along with me in prayer. All right. Divine and gracious Spirit, thank you so much for bringing us together today for this spontaneous workshop on helping us be better mediums. Thank you for the technology that allows us to be together on Zoom. Thank you for inspiring the desire within our hearts to serve in this way and the proof that life is eternal. We ask that anybody on the call today who's struggling a bit with their confidence be lifted up and shown what they're capable of. We ask that anybody who has a question find the answer to that question, either within the group or within themselves. And we ask that anybody who has a problem or a struggle or a difficulty be doused in your healing light and brought to the answer, brought to the solution, brought to the best version of themselves, or at the very least, brought to peace. We ask that you give us what we need today, Spirit, to be the best mediums that we can be as we work in your name, which is love. Amen. All right, so I want you to write for me in a comment, what is happening when you are doing your best mediumship? Let me ask that in a different way. Imagine a mediumship message that you've given that you've even shocked yourself with how good the message was, or how good the piece of information was, or how good the energy felt between you. Why do you think that reading was so successful? What contributed to your success? Try and think about maybe one or two things that contributed to your success. Don't try too hard, don't worry too much, just whatever comes to you. Why was that sitting or that message in particular so successful? Okay, good. Just giving you guys a few minutes to write up your answers and we'll go through them. Good. I'll just wait another minute or two for your answers to stop flowing, and I'll take that as a sign that we can discuss them. Okay, good. So if you think of anything else, please feel free to write it in, but these are some really great answers here. So Manisha said surrender and trust. Good. That's a really great answer. Helen says trust in the process. Very good. Heidi said, I did a meditation beforehand and really entered the state of allowance. Very nice. Tara says, focus, detail, feelings from spirit that can be passed on. Good. Karen says, I don't know. Very honest. Thank you for that really honest answer. Debbie says, a clear connection that felt true. Michelle says, probably trusting, completely, and not letting my mind get in the way and letting spirit take over. I felt deeply that I knew what I was sharing. It was a very deep knowing that it was true. Okay, good. And Guy says, best reading, most of the information came to me before the actual sitting. I was in a very relaxed state and had been free of technology distractions for the day leading up. Okay, great. So most of you touched on some sense of the three groundbreaking, shall we say, methods of improving your mediumship. And we're going to also talk about Karen's very honest answer where she said she doesn't know, because that's often the problem with our mediumship, is we don't really know why that reading went so well and another one didn't, or why, you know, we can do an absolute blinder where we literally can't get anything wrong and the information's just there and you can feel the spirit person so clearly, and then the next time you're just like meh, meh. You know, it's just the fizz, you know, the scintillation, the effervescence just isn't there. Who's had that experience before? Raise your hand. Totally, totally. Okay. Oh, somebody else, who's this now? Sarah. Sarah said, name was shown and felt their shared experiences as a granddad and grandson, given a phrase for a current situation that was in fact one that was used frequently in the shed doing work, a working metaphor for the entire reading. Okay, very good. What I've noticed about a lot of your answers is they are about what actually happened in the reading and what like spirit did with you, and what actually was the nature of the reading that happened. And I guess that ties in with the trust and flow and surrender aspect that you all mentioned. And one thing that can seem like a bit of a paradox is if a reading is about trust and flow and, just surrendering and allowing, then how can we actually also do anything to control the success of a reading? Because if a reading is essentially just about you turn up and, spirit does with you whatever it does with you, then that's not really giving us the opportunity to um, do anything to help ourselves. And I think that's where some mediums get a bit stuck, because they do think, well, I can do a little meditation here or there, but essentially I just turn up and I don't really know why certain readings are successful and some aren't. And so, what I'm hoping to show you today is that a lot of things that are very true in life look like paradoxes. A lot of things are both distinct and part of one. And a lot of things have, an upside and also a downside or underside as well. And so, this idea of turning up and just surrendering and trusting isn't at odds with the idea of, okay, how can we take charge of our mediumship? Because the way that we can take charge of our mediumship is to get better at trusting and surrendering. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So, the first way that has been proven through neuroscientific experiments to help you be a better medium is to spend more time in nature. The brains, the physiology, the emotions of spirit beings in a human body change dramatically with exposure to nature. So much so that many health services in the world now are prescribing days off to go hike and walk in the park instead of prescriptions for Xanax or Zoloft or any other antidepressants, because the results have been shown to be as effective, if not more so. And it's also because when people are feeling a bit depressed, it's actually a social ill. It's an ill of feeling disconnected from others, disconnected from the world around you. And that is also the same ill that plagues mediums. It's when we feel isolated or disconnected or not a part of what we need to be a part of to get the messages through. That's when our mediumship starts to suffer. And so, just as spending time meaningfully in nature, you don't have to do anything in particular, you just have to go there and walk and move around if you can. Maybe you love the seaside, maybe you love forests, maybe you love mountains, whatever it is that's your jam. Spend more time in nature, put it in your diary, make it, look, I wouldn't say make it a habit, because sometimes if we make something too much of a habit, it sort of deadens and flattens the experience of it. We start to do it through rote instead of because we want to or because we feel inspired to. So find a way to make it regular without making it too habitual. Get yourself out in nature and you will see your mediumship improve. Please make a comment and tell me, honestly, tell the truth. How many hours per week do you spend in nature somewhere in the outdoors? In a forest, in a freaking seaside, in up a mountain, walking your dog, whatever it is. How many hours per week do you spend outside? Debbie says 1 to 2. Okay, good. Manisha says 0, zilch, none. We don't leave the house. 3 to 4, 1 to 2. Okay. So everybody needs to try to up that just a little if you want your mediumship to improve. And, if you guys have kids, if you guys have pets, if you, need to work through a problem, if you need a change of thinking and a change of pace, all of these things will also be healed and resolved and moved forward by being out in nature. But specifically, your brain literally lights up and activates when you are out in nature, breathing it all in and moving your body and just being there at one with the environment that our ancestors were a part of. The same way your brain lights up when you're in the deepest dream levels of sleep, when you're in a really deep meditation, and when you're doing your mediumship. So when you're doing mediumship successfully, your brain is lit up the same way as when you're walking through nature and really embracing it and being a part of it. And so it doesn't serve you to stay home if you want to improve your mediumship, especially after the last 2 years. I don't know about you guys, but staying home this much has absolutely, it's going to take some getting back from, I'll tell you that. My fiance and I literally moved next to a forest because I needed a forest here. So I go walking in it every day if I can. So Guy says, in the garden, mostly at the weekend, I have a reasonable sized garden. I created what I called the Woodland Area. Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. Okay, so everybody's homework is to get outside in nature and just see how you feel. I'm not in the business of telling you what to do if it doesn't work for you, but I'm in the business of saying, why don't you try this and see if it works for you, see how you feel? Because it's something that is reported to have the biggest positive difference in a medium's performance. And what I mean by performance is the clarity and ease with which information comes to you, the consistency of your readings, your feeling of confidence and being connected to the sitter opposite you, rather than feeling that it's a confrontational situation or feeling worried or anxious about it. It helps you to feel that you're connected to all that is because you've spent time being connected to all that is. So give it a try. I definitely recommend it. Um, Sneja says, how about the amazing natural energy of dense urban environments? I'm not sure if you're being serious or not, but no, I'm talking about a natural environment, not a synthetic or man-made environment. I wasn't sure if you were kidding.
Actually being very serious.
Okay, no. Well, look, the studies showed that people who lived in urban areas, which I do, I live in Glasgow, which is a city, were not as happy, were not as fulfilled. Like there was all kinds of markers of their satisfaction in life, their mental health, their feeling of belonging, their feeling of connection, and people who dwelled only in urban areas and never sought out regular experiences with nature were scored more lowly across all of the scores. So I will in the Facebook group, the Miraculous Mediumship group, I will put a link to the studies that I'm talking about so you can have a look and see for yourself. All right. Michelle says, does the garden count? I don't know. Depends how wild your garden is. We're looking for non-man-made here. We're looking for not particularly cultivated, not particularly wrought, not a neat little flower bed that a human made. We're talking about connecting to something bigger than yourself. That's kind of the point. Connecting to a feeling or a force that's bigger than you via nature, things that are outside of your control. So if your garden is out of control, then yes. But if your garden is perfectly manicured, then probably go somewhere a little wilder. Okay, so the second thing I would like to talk to you about is one of the ways that you can improve your mediumship dramatically is by having a meaningful connection to a community of other mediums. And this is something that is under emphasized. I mean, we go to circles and we practice our mediumship and we do our ribbon readings and such and whatnot. But there's a couple of issues that I've noticed among mediumship communities. First of all, a lot of it's happening online now, and online doesn't have the same supportive benefits as having an actual in-person community surrounding these abilities and these interests that you have. It really isn't the same. And so it's really important that if you can, you get to be in a mediumship community that is consistent and supportive and in person if possible. If you are seeking out a mediumship community online, what I would recommend is some kind of a closed group and something where there are rules and something where you feel that it's actually a thing that you come to and there's a ritual about it and you're all together and then you leave. What I'm not talking about necessarily is Facebook groups that are kind of really loose and no one's really managing it, or meetups that only happen once every 6 months and then who knows who's organizing it. What's important if you're doing it online is something consistent and where you feel invested and where the person who is running it or organizing the group also feels invested with you as well. Okay, so if you must do it online, that's what to look for, but ideally in person. What is also good is if you have an online group, you do it online and then maybe every 6 months or something you meet up in person so that you can kind of restore and fortify those bonds. And it's all about feeling that you belong with people who are like you, who understand you, because the world can be a bit of a tough place for mediums. I don't know if you've noticed. Who's noticed the world's a bit of a tough place for mediums, right? I mean, on a daily basis, I get abuse under my Facebook posts, abuse about my articles that I write. I mean, people in the public eye saying that mediums are fake frauds and charlatans when they don't know anything about them. I mean, Christians, skeptics, there's just a lot of we're not okay. I mean, in Glasgow, I have to be careful if I book a mediumship event, which venue I go and ask to book my event, because it could very easily be Church of Scotland, Catholic Church. They still own a lot of property here, a lot of the kind of town halls and different things. So it's tough to move through the world feeling that those biases are against you, and you really, really need other people who are like you to support you. And that takes me on to the second part of this point, which is the second mistake I see a lot of mediums making is they just sort of float in to whatever mediumship group there is when they don't actually think about, is this the right group for me? Do these people here share my values? Is this truly focused on development of human capabilities for the highest good? Do I feel like I like these people? Do these people seem to have an ethical standard of love and connection and trust with each other rather than bitching and complaining and backstabbing? It matters not just that you get around other mediums, it matters that you get around other mediums of merit, of value, of substance, of compassion, who are walking the talk of what they profess to be about. Okay, so if you can find a community, offline is better in person, or online, but where there's a quite firm commitment and quite firm boundaries and the opportunity to meet up in person, and you like the people and you feel that they have integrity that are part of it, then that is a really, really great thing to do to improve your mediumship, because spirit communication is like ships rising. And if we are in a community that's good for us, we all rise at once on that tide. And it really does matter. And it's true not just of mediums, it's true of anything that anybody's trying to accomplish. If you have like minded support, you learn better from the people who are like you. You have more courage because you feel that there's people that have your back and you're not alone. And if you take action on this point, you will be shocked at how your mediumship improves as a result of feeling that you're not doing it on your own. Raise your hand for me if you've sometimes felt in your mediumship like you're doing it on your own. It will be holding your mediumship back to a degree that you can't understand until you show yourself the opposite, until you give yourself the opposite information. So that is really, really important. There are people out there who are like you, who love and like and understand you and what you're going through, who want the best for you as you would want the best for them. And it is transformational to find a community like that. So that's point number 2. So who here feels drawn? Let me know in a comment, who here feels drawn to taking action on finding a supportive mediumship community to help them achieve their goals and get where they want to go with their mediumship? Leave me a comment and let me know what you think about that. Yes, definitely. Good. You're not alone, guys. You're not alone. Might feel that way sometimes. I totally understand it feeling that way, but you're not alone. Yes, now is the time, definitely, for certain. Good, good, good. Okay, so the third thing I want to talk to you about, the third way that you can develop or increase your mediumship, and look, this is like stating the bleeding obvious here, but I'm going to say it anyway, is you need to actually have a connection or a bond with the divine, whatever that means to you. Excuse me, I'm choking on my own saliva here from so much talking. A higher power, some conception of God, spirit, the universe, something that evokes wonder and awe and majesty, and cultivating that within yourself in relationship with a higher being or a higher power. And one of the best ways that you can do this is through meditation. And the idea is that the spirit world should not feel like a far off stranger to you that you only see in the context of a reading. The spirit world should not feel like somebody that you might have to worry about, or something that might be a bit dodgy, or something that is like really foreign and unfamiliar to you. The goal that you want to achieve here in terms of connecting with a higher power is a feeling of friendship, familiarity, intimacy, and going back to that great word that you all used earlier, trust. All right. So how do we come to trust a living person? Well, we spend time with them progressively. We get to know them little by little. We have coffee with them, we laugh with them, we learn what their little quirks are and how they see the world, and we grow in warmth over the things that we connect with. Eventually we may ask them for help and they help us with something really significant outside the call of duty, and they may ask us for help with something and we help them. So there's all kinds of ways that you develop a bond and a friendship with the living. But I want you to think about building a bond or a friendship like that with the spirit world, with God or your higher power or your guides, or even just the idea of the collective people in spirit, like whatever you think of it to be. There should be a familiarity and an intimacy there where it's not just at the times of a private reading or whatever that you're connecting with spirit. Those times should be interspersed with many, many moments of friendship and trust building and familiarity building that you have spent with the spirit world outside of those readings. And that's one of the biggest purposes of meditation that's not talked about very much, is that building actual trust, actual friendship, the feeling of this is an unconditional love from a higher power, a higher being here that I'm in this deeply trusting dynamic and relationship with. Quite a few mediums come to my spirit circle or my mediumship courses, or even in the audience at my events, and they ask me, well, what about bad spirits? And what about, negative entities? And what about things that I should worry about? And I know when they ask me that they have spent too little time building a friendship and a bond with the spirit world, and too much time, worrying and holding it away and being afraid and being, like this. And so one easy-ish way to fix that is to just have a consistent bond. Like, I'm talking to spirit all the time. For me, it's very much gratitude. As I move through the world, I'll give you an example. Out my office window here, there's this little squirrel that we've been watching for ages, and the squirrels just had babies, and the tiny, teeny baby squirrels are just like running out of the little nest and poking their heads out, and they have barely any hair on their tails, and they're just so tiny and cute. And I'm just like, thank you, spirit, so much for that, for those baby squirrels, for this world, for that mama squirrel just doing her thing and bringing me this little piece of joy. I'm thinking like that as much as I possibly can. The same way you would say thank you to a friend who gave you a beautiful gift. And if you pay attention to the spirit world in that way, like a dear friend, like somebody you want to be your friend, and you pay attention to that relationship with spirit in that way, your mediumship will totally transform. Now, there is a deeper part to this, which is that a lot of people's fear of what might be possible in the spirit world in a negative sense is because they've been hurt or harmed by living people that they trusted. Now, I'm not going to ask you to put your hand up for this one, but I want you to think about whether your fears and apprehensions about the spirit world or about your mediumship at all reflect a hurt or an injury or a betrayal or a wound or a feeling of being ignored or harmed or anything like this that relates to the living. Because quite often our subconscious mind can get the message that if our parents or our siblings or our teachers or our guardians or our spouses or our friends or our business partners can't care about us and love us in the right way, then how the hell are we supposed to expect any stranger in the spirit world to look after us in the right way? You know, living people have hurt me, therefore the spirit world's going to hurt me. And quite often that message is not conscious but subconscious. And it takes a little bit of work to say, okay, those things did happen, those things are true, but you get to choose the sort of attention that you want to bring to your relationship with the spirit world, because the spirit is not your mother, your father, your spouse, your ex-friend, you know, whoever. Spirit world isn't them. And you get to kind of make that connection, or you get to break that connection and say, even though I was treated in such and so a way, I know that this friendship with the spirit world, this trust, this bond is something different, it's something new. And in fact, it's a chance to restore feelings of trust by spending time with the spirit world as if they're a friend. Okay, so something I'm writing about for the Art and Science of Mediumship that I've been working on for a while is the relationship between mediumship and trauma and therapy. And there definitely is a relationship there. You know, those of you who have read my book, The Medium and Manolos, will know that it asks you to dig deep within your own psyche and to say, okay, how is my own thought process about other people, about spirit, about how I should be with others? How is that holding my mediumship back? And it is a really important question to ask. But more important than the asking is to get evidence to the contrary of your pain. So if you've had pain from a friendship, for example, in the past, for you to say, okay, I'm willing to give this friendship with my creator, with the divine, with the spirit world, a chance to show itself to be bigger, greater, more loving, more supportive than I could have imagined, and see how that affects your mediumship, then it may even bring the healing that you need to the wounds that you sustained in the past. Okay, so developing a trusting, loving friendship and relationship outside of, right, okay, I need to do this reading, so I need you to be there, you know, or feeling that they're just not there when you come to do the reading. That should never be happening. If it's happening, then you've not spent enough time with them, honestly. That's it. There's no such thing as a spirit world not being there. You just haven't been bringing the right or enough attention to them. And so that is one way that you can dramatically improve your mediumship. So it's connection to nature, connection to other good-hearted mediums who share your ideas about life and stuff, and connection to the divine. So please leave me a comment and tell me, what was your number one takeaway or aha moment from what we've talked about today? What has spoken to you the most? All about connection. Good. Connection to nature and to the divine. Very nice. Setting a goal, connection to divine, defining your levels to get out in nature more. Good. Holistic process, it encompasses all. Yep. This one's long. Michelle said, too little time building our relationship. and more time over analysing past traumas and behaviours. Yeah, oh, Michelle, that's very honest and I can totally relate to that. Guy says nature connection and talking with your guides, etc. Good. Okay, perfect. Excuse me, I'm just taking a wee sip of water. So now what I'd like you to do is just get comfy really quick. Just put your pens down, pencils down, everything down. Just go ahead and get comfy. And I want you to just take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, and just breathe a little bit more into your belly and a little bit more deeply than you usually would. Let your eyes drop closed when they're ready. And as you breathe, I want you to visualize or picture your breath as a white light filling up your entire body as you breathe. And as you breathe in, it fills it up to every curve, every nook and cranny, all the farthest flung reaches of your fingers and toes. And as you breathe out, it settles with you. Just let the light really gather anywhere that feels tight or tense or worried or in pain. And with your next breath, I want you to breathe this white light out of your body and into your aura. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You're going to get a sense of where your aura is, where it ends, how far it extends outside of you. Usually for me, when I do this, the light changes a little. It becomes sort of sparkly and iridescent and takes on a bit of a different quality as it leaves my body. Take a few breaths just to fill up this energy into your aura, this white light. And as you continue to breathe, now push the white light out further than your aura to create a bubble, a sacred and safe space around you, close enough that the spirit world can speak to you and communicate with you and give you impressions, but far enough away that you feel you have your personal space. Think about the distance that you would be happy for someone to talk to you, a living person, a comfortable distance. And as you breathe, this white light goes into the space of communication, this safe distance where the spirit world can blend and give you information. And as you breathe, from above your head, a cascading white light from the spirit world joins with yours to help you, to strengthen you, to help you with clarity, with safety, with love, to help you with confidence, communication, peace, ease, to help you find the right words, the right emotions, to help you tell the truth. This beautiful white light of the divine that's always been with you and will always be with you. Take a nice deep breath, breathe it in. And when you feel that you're nice and full and radiant, bring yourself back to the sound of my voice, to the feeling of your body, the seat underneath you, feeling of being within your own body, your own self. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and when you feel ready, open your eyes. Welcome back, everyone. You look absolutely serene. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put you in groups of 2 or 3, and I want you to just practice giving a message to each other. Just take yourself back to that zone of communication. Usually for me, it's slightly behind my head here, that safe distance where spirit work with me, where I feel and perceive the information from. Just let yourself settle into that space. Be curious, be open-minded, say what's there with love in your heart. And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes each to work with each other. And then we'll come back to the main Zoom room and talk about how our readings went. Does that sound okay? Okay, perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and pair you up now. Hello everybody, welcome back. Just waiting for everyone to return to the room. If you would like to share your experience, please go ahead and click on the reactions tab. There should be a reactions tab in Zoom, and there should be a button there that says raise hand. So you can raise your hand if you would like to unmute and come on and talk about your experience, either as a sitter or as the medium. And if you can't see the raise hand button, just raise your actual hand and then I'll see you. Who'd like to share? Yes, Guy, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh,
Hello.
hang on. Right. Has it gone? Oh.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. I think I still things seem to be coming through, and I hope that Linda and Debbie, so Linda, because it was the one that was seemed to be directed at, that they came through okay. But I feel sort of a bit that I wasn't quite. Maybe I wasn't quite trusting everything I was getting, or trusting that saying it out is the right thing. I don't know, but because I think we're always a bit worried about sort of feeling a bit silly because it's not quite what we're saying. So I like one thing I said, I've got felt like it was a name Dan, but it could have been Dad. But there's a few things that don't always come through clearly. It's nice when it comes through really clear, but yeah, it's yes. I think it sort of tends to make me sort of sit back and think a bit more about it. Maybe I'm thinking too much about, oh, am I doing it right? And
Yeah.
should be relaxing again and just let it flow. Just let the flow come. But I think hopefully Linda might say something different. I don't know. Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot in a minute. But some things seem to be there. I get a lot of feeling through my body usually for illness and what have you. Or,
Sure.
and sometimes again, it's still that what's the word, deciphering or translation of what you're getting as to make it work, for it to work for the person.
Yes.
And I know so many times you say something to a person and it's difficult. And as Linda read for me too, it's just hers came through. I don't know the person. It might be for my partner. So
Sure.
but we'll find out later.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry if
Great.
I'm very babbling. Sorry.
No, not at all. Thank you so much for sharing and for your contribution today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Who else would like to share? Helen.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. I just felt mine was a little disjointed. The information was there, but it was that, and then I was second guessing it, like I had a key, and when I analyze it now, I was thinking, I said, you live in that house, like your mum's house? No. Oh, she had a key to the house, so I'm kind of second guessing what I've got.
Yeah. I mean, both you and Guy, it's like that analytical mind when it comes in is like, it doesn't help you at the time and it doesn't help you afterwards as well. I always say to my students, as a medium, you're like the shore and the waves of spirit have to lap at you. There's no way that the shore can analyze if the wave's coming or not. And, if it was that the right wave and did that wave hit me right, it just allows the wave to lap at the shore. And so, whatever needs to happen for you to return to a state like that, rather than the analytical state, either throughout or after, will help. Maybe go to the seaside, Helen.
Maybe.
See some waves lapping at the shore. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yes. Manisha?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for doing
Hello.
this. This has been really helpful.
Good.
So
How are
yeah, when
you?
I'm doing, these kind of impromptu readings, I do very well because my mind really doesn't have the time to, get into it. It's like I'm seeing this and I just like seeing, feeling, whatever, and I just start off. But it's, yeah, like when I do my booked readings, and that's when the anxiety comes in, and when I have people with their sob stories, like whatever, da, da, da. And yeah, my block is, the anxiety. And because mediumship is so joyful, I want it to be joyful for me as well. Like not, so it's joyful after 5 minutes when the link has been landed and the
Yeah.
messages start. But I want it to be joyful from right when I go into the reading, because I feel that I could have done so much better if I wouldn't have been so anxious. There could have been so much more depth to my messages. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's really the one thing that, like, now the holy grail that I'm searching for.
How much joy is there elsewhere in your life, Manisha?
There is a lot of joy. Honestly, there is. I mean, though I'm very isolated, I live in a country where mediumship is a sin, so I have no one in person that I can talk to, but I have a wonderful community and all of that, so that's there. I mean, like, I have a lot of joy in my life, though I don't go out at all, but that's like, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to start going out.
Good. That will help because
Okay.
often the joy and ease of mediumship comes when you feel joy and ease in your life. It's a reflection, and so it reflects it onto it. So give that a try. And it's wonderful to meet you. I know this is the first time we've connected, so thank you so much for
Yes.
spending this time with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It
You're
was wonderful.
welcome.
I got a lot out of it.
Good. I'm so
And you have
glad.
a lovely, soothing voice,
Thank you very much. I know that Scottish accent does a lot for book sales, I'll tell you. The audiobook has sold a lot of copies. Thank you, Manisha. Karen.
It's more of a question, Lauren, for something
Sure.
that came up during the session. Do you perceive spirits who were lost in pregnancy, who didn't come through? And if you do, how do you perceive them? Like what sort of information comes across to you?
That's a good question. Sometimes I do, yes, and it really depends. It really does depend. Sometimes it comes through from the perspective of the mother and her loss, or even the father and his loss. But sometimes, if a soul was very much present in the child that was lost, then that essentially that person or that soul will come forward in a variety of different ways. Sometimes they come forward as being a baby form who's held by another person in the spirit world. I see that quite often. But sometimes they show me, sometimes you see that sort of ape to man graph that you see. Sometimes I see it almost like that, like this is who would have been or what would have been, kind of like in a parallel situation. So it really varies.
So you might see that they might come across as how old they would be now had
Yes.
they come through.
That's
Okay.
quite common, because then you can give that good piece of evidence, which is, oh, I feel this person to be, say, 35. And, it's like, oh, yeah, it would have, that person would have been, that boy or girl would have been 35 now. So, yes, I do quite often see it as such.
Okay. Thank you.
Usually there's a reason that they want to show themselves like that. Usually there's a reason why they want to draw attention to the time that's elapsed or the date or something along those lines. When that happens to me, there's usually some other significance to their age or the date.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sarah?
Thank you. There is another, there's a Linda Clark that keeps popping her hand up as well. So I don't know if you
Okay,
can
sorry, I
see
beg
that,
your
Lauren.
pardon, Linda. Thank you very much for letting me know,
Just
Sarah.
made it known.
Sarah, you're such a warrior for the
Um,
righteous.
Yeah, maybe. I've got more of a question, because I managed to connect, I think, to a spirit for one of the ladies that were in my room. And what it's really highlighted to me is that I often work in metaphors. So spirit will give me a very distinct feeling, and I know exactly what it means. Like, for in this instance, it's kind of a dam, something stemming the flow in a situation, and a bit like in the washing machine when you have that little insert that stops the liquid from running out too soon, one of those, and one of those is going to be taken out of another person to kind of, why doesn't spirit ever tell me what the situation is? Because even if it's, because that was a really nice connection for me, it felt really strong and true. But because it's so unspecific, it makes me feel like I'm less good, and that they lose faith in me, because it's like, oh, she's just saying stabs in the dark, even though they apply, because I can't say what they specifically, are about. It just feels like, am I just guessing? I don't understand. So how can I get around that, maybe?
That's a good question. So there's a couple of aspects to this. First of all, what makes us special in terms of being human is our ability to understand metaphor. And we're using metaphors and analogies for things all the time. So that part of your brain on the right hemisphere is literally just really well developed. You see the meaning behind things. But that often indicates that you're working on the psychic level, that you're not working with a person in spirit, that you're working with the meaning and the mind of the sitter. And so there's a discipline of literalness that needs to take place in order for you to just be like, this is who's here, this is their name, this is their relationship to you, this is the the country or the town I think they lived in. It's a different part of your brain and your psyche that is going to use the
Because I could see her mother, because I had a spirit, I had a person, I picked up on quite a few things, and I'm quite comfortable that that's who it was for in what I was seeing and given
is it's not spirit that's using metaphor, it's you. It's your mind that's using metaphor. It's not them. They're not trying to bamboozle you. They want to be clear. But there's a comfort that you have with metaphor and a discomfort or an unfamiliarity that you have with the literal.
So if I understood what I understand and I gave it to spirit, what does this actually mean for my sitter? Is that kind of like the key step that I'm missing, whereas they might be able to tell me then, oh, this is to do with their stepson, or this is to do with work, or
well, what you can try is just
is there like something that could
Yeah, just saying, oh, do you have a memory with this person in spirit with a broken washing machine? You know, you used this analogy of a washing machine. I would say I'm going to a memory where I see a broken washing machine. Does that resonate with you? I would literally just say it. And even if it's wrong, the practice is about you trusting the literal, and then the literal will start to come.
Can I just say, I don't know
Because
if
I realised, yeah, sorry.
sorry, it was me on the receiving end. And
Hi,
I just,
Tara.
I forgot to, it's just come to me, but I've had literally a block in my washing machine. I've had the plumber out twice, and there was a thing that was stopping the washing machine. But also that the metaphor really resonated with what's going on for me. And it did, lots of other things you said did feel it was mum telling me that, and connecting in that way. But then I suddenly realized, no, my washing machine has been blocked and it's been cleared and the water.
I was just about to say,
Yeah.
I don't think it's about a washing machine. So yeah,
Yeah.
just knowing where
But
it's
your
coming
question,
from is
like irrespective of what Tara's just said, your question is how can you get more literal information? You know, not whether or not that was valuable or whether it was correct. It's how can you get, that's what you asked me. And so the answer is that you start attuning your mind and trusting and requesting that that literal information comes from spirit, and you start speaking as if. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a metaphor at all. There really isn't. Like I said, people, especially women, tend to learn better through metaphor. That being said, the function usually of mediumship is not to have metaphors and analogy, it's to give evidence. And so, Tara, I'm not saying that that wasn't your mum or that it wasn't valuable, but because mediumship is focused on evidence, and because Sarah's question was about how can she have it become more literal, you know, those are the two things that I want you to consider, Sarah, that you're more comfortable with metaphor than with the literal right now. And you just need to start speaking as if things are literal first. And if you want to then say, oh, this could be a metaphor for whatever, you can. But trust that things are literal in the first instance if you want that more clear-cut evidence from spirit.
thank you.
All right, darling. Lovely to see you. Okay, we're running out of time. Manisha, do you still have your hand up, or do you want to say something else?
Can I ask a very quick question if time allows? If not, that's perfectly okay too.
That's fine. Let me come back to you because Linda was here and wanted to speak. So let me go ahead and unmute Linda, and I'll come back to you, Manisha. Oh,
Thank
sorry, I unmuted Heidi by accident. Oh, sorry, I did it again.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, lovely to see you.
And you, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I just want to say, to follow up on what Guy was saying, when he brought the gentleman through, I recognised he did bring through the energy, and I could take everything. I know that he was doubting his names, but, which is understandable. We all have that. But I realised straight away who he has. He brought two people. He brought Dad, and there's concerns about my sister, and I could take that completely. To go to my experience of giving a message to Yai, I've got a Scottish guy here. I knew Scottish because I kept being drawn to the Billy Connolly book on your shelf there, and I felt this Scots guy was a comedian. But my question really is, Guy thinks he can. He'd have to check with his wife. He thinks he knows who it is because his wife's got a Scottish connection. But I seem to be getting a lot of spirit contacts from people for other people. I'll check with so. I think it's so. I think it relates to my daughter. I think it's someone that could be my. Is this just spirit testing me, or because I don't get a direct yes or no because they're having to go somewhere else to be the messenger.
I wouldn't say necessarily that it's spirit testing you, but your mediumship is very much like water. It flows where the gaps are, it flows where the receptivity is, it flows where the greatest need is. And so your mediumship is not like a direct thing. Your mediumship's very flowy, and so it will go where it's needed and it will go where the gaps are. So the healing is going where it needs to through you. So I would honestly just trust it. Because see if Guy goes away and that turns out to be accurate, there's absolutely no way you could have known that. So not only is that evidence even better, but it means that a family have sat down and had a conversation about loved ones and about the past that they wouldn't have had if you hadn't passed that message along.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we don't interfere too much with the value of what we're saying. So just go with it. That's your thing.
Oh, that's beautifully put. Thank you very much, Lauren.
You're welcome. Okay, finally, Manisha, did you have one question?
Yes. Okay, so this question is prompted by, the other question on stillbirths, and there are two
Yes.
camps, and which says that personally, I think it's beautiful survival of, survival of life. But
Yes.
there is a camp which says that since the spirit hasn't even taken, like the soul didn't even take a single breath, so this is not evidential. So I just wanted to understand what's your take on it.
Yes, I mean, for
Thank
me,
you.
the evidential very much balance up with the healing. And so if there's a part of the reading that is, the evidential part is saying, do you have a baby in the spirit world that didn't make it to term? That is evidential if it's correct. But then evidence isn't all there is. There's also the what so of why that's important, because it's obviously a pain in the person's heart. And great mediumship to me attends to both the evidence and the healing of the pain where possible. And so that's where the evidence isn't the be all and end all. And so, and it's also not for us to say, because I really feel in the spirit world that souls are kind of recycled. So even if a baby didn't make it to life this particular time, their spirit, I believe, their consciousness that would have been, so to speak, has been on this earth before most of the time. And I also believe that spirit stands outside of space-time. And so something that might not seem like it's evidence yet, that spirit, that person, that energy may have a different point of view on the totality of their loved one's life in a sort of guardian angel type role that we don't yet understand or know about. So I try not to overthink that stuff and just be honest about what's there.
Yeah, I believe the same. So thank you
Okay,
for
you're
the
welcome.
contribution.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. I really hope that you learned something. I really hope that you had a good time. Now, I know that some of you in the group here have joined my Spirit Circle already, which is starting back on Thursday. So if you had a good time here and you think that I could be the right medium, the right coach, the right mentor to support you in your journey, then I would invite you to apply to join the Spirit Circle with us, which, as I say, starts on Thursday. So I'll put the link in the comments and you can check it out and let me know if you would like to join us. And all that remains is for me to say thank you again for being here. I really hope that you loved it. And I'm going to make a recording of this session. I've been recording the whole thing. So I'm just thinking about where to put it. I'll probably put it on YouTube if you guys will give me permission, or put it into the Facebook group or something like that, so you guys can grab it and can watch back and listen back again. So with regards to Spirit Circle, it's not going to be at this time. It's going to be at 7 p.m. UK time starting Thursday. Okay, so 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. UK time, and it's every 2 weeks. So we meet on a Thursday, then we skip a Thursday, then we meet on the next Thursday again. We also have a Facebook group where you can communicate with me, communicate with each other, practice your readings, get and give support alongside the live calls of the group as well. There's no coursework or videos or paperwork as such. We really just meet up to work on our mediumship, work on our problems, celebrate each other, grow closer to spirit together, and really just lift each other up in the ways that we've been talking about today. So thanks again so much, everybody. I've loved having you here. It was just the perfect number, the perfect group, and I'll talk to you guys really soon. Take care.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Lauren.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Lauren.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See you soon. Have a great day.
You too.